In today's video, we are going to speak about a nutrition approach that can be a massive game changer on your fitness journey, regardless of your goal. So whether you want to pack on muscle, shed the pounds, maintain your weight, improve your athletic performance, which is calorie tracking. And the reason why I like it as well is because not only does it help you become more mindful in regard to how many calories you're having, maybe protein, but it also can help you become much more aware of the quality of the food and drink that you're consuming as well. So again, it just can be a massive game changer overall. Otherwise, let's get stuck into the rest of the video. Grab your popcorn, make sure you track that as well, and let's get started. So put simply, calories are units of energy that we get from the foods and drinks that we have. And then we use this energy to do everyday activities, being as simple as maybe digesting food, standing up, sitting down, going upstairs, to being more active, like participating in exercise, whether it's martial arts or resistance training. So now you're probably wondering, what do calories have to do with weight management? So think of it like this, and again, I'm going to be speaking in very basic terms. When you consume excess calories, so more than what is needed to maintain your current body weight, that's what often gets stored as fat, and that is what is called a calorie surplus. However, on the other hand, when you consume less calories that's needed to maintain your current body weight, then that's what is called a calorie deficit. And this is what's going to help you lose weight or lose fat, depending on, again, maybe several other factors as well. And then of course, when it comes to weight maintenance, you would then consume more or less about the calories required to maintain your current body weight to help you do that. So overall, you've got calorie surplus, calorie deficit, and maintenance. I do think it's important to emphasize this point as well before moving on to the next section, that the size of the calorie surplus or the calorie deficit does matter. Being in a slight calorie surplus does help with gaining muscle and minimizing the amount of extra fat that you're going to gain, whereas being in a slight calorie deficit, so not a massive one, just a slight one, does help with more gradual and sustainable weight loss, because aggressiveness rarely works in the long term. First up is the trusty food scale, and a food scale is going to be absolutely vital when it comes to accurately tracking your calories. Now, I would recommend a digital food scale over the old-fashioned food scales with an arrow, because a digital food scale is going to be a lot more accurate. Regardless of whether you're tracking chicken, cereal, a handful of peanuts, again, you need a food scale for the accuracy, because without a food scale, you're just going to be guessing, and if you're guessing, then that's not very valuable when it comes to accurately tracking your calories, and accuracy is going to be very important for, again, just calorie tracking in general. So next up, you're going to need a measuring cup and measuring spoons as well. And a measuring cup is going to be important because it's going to help you measure liquids that you're going to either drink or cook with, and then measuring spoons are going to be important for things like olive oil. Now, I would say if you don't have the fancy looking measuring spoons, then a regular tablespoon and a regular teaspoon is absolutely fine, and in fact that's what I've been using myself. And now next up, you're going to need a calorie tracking app, and there's so many calorie tracking apps out there nowadays. I've seen MyFitnessPal, Nutritionix, Carbon, Mike's Macros. Again, the list is literally endless. So what I would say is just find one, pick it, play around with it, see if you like it, and then be consistent with it. And the reason why I would recommend a calorie tracking app is because the app does all the maths for you. You don't need to go throughout the day writing it down, adding it up yourself, because again, that can result in a lot of inaccuracies. So the calorie tracking app helps minimize that greatly, and it's got a database of just tons and tons and tons of food. So again, with how convenient they are, just at the touch of a few buttons on your smartphone, you'd be silly not to use a calorie tracking app. When it comes to using a food scale, of course you'll want to ensure that it's switched on first of all, and then you'll want to find the correct unit of measurement. So because I'm about to weigh out some mixed nuts and some oats, I'm going to find grams. Once you've found the correct unit of measurement, you pop the bowl or the plate onto the food scale and reset it to 0. That's very important. You would then pop whatever food it is into the bowl, and whatever reading comes up is how much is in that bowl. So here I have 19 grams of mixed nuts. And then the same concept applies for whatever it is you're going to measure next. So next up, I'm going to measure some oats. I'm going to put the bowl back onto the food scale. I'll reset it to 0 again. And then I'm going to pour whatever it is that I want into the bowl, and whatever comes up, again, is how much I have within the bowl. So here I have 31 grams of oats. Now next up, I'm going to show you a convenient way as to how you can measure spreads. And this works very well for peanut butter, jam, Nutella for example. So what you're going to do is pop the spread onto the food scale, reset it to 0, and then whatever it is you take out with your knife, then it will go into minus for how much you've taken out. So here I've taken out 5 grams of peanut butter so far. I'm going to have a little bit more, And with this second serving I'm having, I've taken out another 3 grams. So I've taken out 8 grams of peanut butter in total. And now I'm going to show you a convenient way as to how you can measure liquids. So make sure you've got a measuring jug. You can use a shaker cup in this case as well. One tip I frequently like to use is, let's say there's a specific glass that you frequently like to drink from. And if you want to track your calories, but you don't want to attract too much attention to it either, let's say if you're around other people, then I would fill the content of that glass up and then pour out the glass into the shaker cup and see how much is in there. So here I have 300 milliliters for that specific glass. So now every time I use that glass, I know I'm having about 300 milliliters. And then of course you could always just use the shaker cup or the measuring jug in its typical way as well, in which you just pour the liquid into the shaker cup and you see how much you have in there. So here I have 200 milliliters. And then when it comes to measuring teaspoons or tablespoons, I just use regular teaspoons or tablespoons as I don't have the fancy looking ones. So here I'm going to measure out a teaspoon of olive oil. And you want to be precise when doing this. Don't let it completely overflow, otherwise that's not just 1 teaspoon. Now, when it comes to a step-by-step tutorial of using a calorie tracking app, you will find that once you've used maybe 1 or 2 quite consistently, that a lot of them just feel the same and they're just quite easy to all get a hang of. And this is just because they're all calorie tracking apps. Maybe 2 or 3 of them might have their own unique features, but this is just something I've realized from helping my own online clients. So the reason why I'm telling you this as well is just because in this video, I am going to be giving you a tutorial of the most popular tracking app, which is MyFitnessPal. But again, if you're using a different one, then you will find that, again, a lot of what I'm about to say and show you is pretty much likely going to be the same thing. Now I'm going to show you how to use the app. Once it's downloaded, you'll need to create an account. So you can use your email or sign up with Google or Facebook for convenience. Follow the prompts to set up your profile with details like age, weight, height, and what your goals are. The app is also going to ask you what you want your goal weight to be, although I wouldn't spend too much time thinking about this because it's not going to affect anything, so I would just write anything in there for now. The app is also going to ask you what you want your rate of weekly progress to be, although I don't think this is a sensible decision to ask people because most people are going to pick ones that are going to consist of extremes. So I would just click anything there because later on you'll use the calorie goal that my free calorie calculator will give you, which you can again find via the link in the caption of this video. And then as you can see, MyFitnessPal will send you an email asking you to confirm your email address. And then another very important point that I want to emphasize as well is that you turn off the feature for MyFitnessPal to track your steps, because then this is going to start impacting your calorie goal as well, which you do not want. Also, do not allow them to access your motion and fitness activity for the same reason. And now once you're in the app, of course, you're going to want to find out what your real calorie goal is, not the one the app gives you. So go to my website via the link in the caption of this video, which will take you to my free calorie calculator. Fill out the information on there. Do be mindful of the activity levels because they are slightly different to the one that MyFitnessPal gives you. And then once you've got your calorie goal, go back onto the app and then update it to that one. And then once you've updated your calorie goal, you can tweak your macro goals as well. I've historically noticed that MyFitnessPal likes to give too much of a low protein target, so I like to increase that. And then once that's done, you can go back onto the app's dashboard and click the diary button at the bottom of the app, in which you can start logging your foods. And on the screen right now, what you're seeing is me just submitting a few different foods. It's just a few random examples. So I'm typing in the weight that I'm having of the specific food as well, in which I would have known from the food scale that I used, as well as whether I had it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack. It must be mentioned that the foods I'm submitting right now into the app are just very generic foods. The foods that you might have quite a different nutritional profile for the same food. So maybe the specific brand of oats that you're having, for example, might be very different to the one in the app. So I would recommend keeping your eyes peeled for that, and ideally use the scan the barcode feature or the quick add feature, in which I'll show you shortly. Anyway, as previously mentioned, and as you can see, I'm still tweaking the portion sizes. I'm looking at the specific foods I'm having. I'm going for the specific measurement. So these are all things that you want to do throughout the day as well as you go along. Another feature you'll want to be aware of is that when you click back onto your diary and you click onto the section on the upper part of the screen where it says calories remaining, swipe onto nutrients, and you can see how well you're doing in regard to your specific macro goal for the day for proteins, carbs, fats. And then as for the last useful feature that I'm going to show you is quick add. So if you click on the 3 dots beside lunch or dinner, you can then add your own custom foods which you might not have found in the app's database or the barcode didn't work for. So the nutrition information on the nutrition label is something that you're going to want to pay attention to moving forward as well, because that's basically where all the information about everything you're going to eat and drink is going to be, and that's going to let you see whether or not it fits within your daily goals as well. So now let's look at a food label closer up. So here I have a good old bag of sesame seeds. So the first couple of things you'll want to look out for when it comes to the nutrition label is the information for 100 grams and the information for serving size. So on this particular food, a serving size is 10 grams. And then under the serving sizes, you'll see calories, or in this case, it says energy. So calories per 100 grams is 589 calories. And then we can break down the macronutrients, which are fats, carbohydrates, and protein. So in this case for sesame seeds, we have 51 grams of fats, 1.9 grams of carbohydrates, and 24 grams of protein. So we can already see that this is quite calorie dense just from looking at the nutritional information on the label. So it's definitely a food you would want to be very mindful of if you're trying to be in a calorie deficit, for example. So when it comes to common challenges and mistakes, the first one is just simply forgetting to log. It might happen every once in a while, but if this is something you're consistently doing at breakfast and lunch and dinner throughout the week, several times a week, then you're never going to really build up a reliable picture of what you're eating and drinking, your habits, and therefore you're not going to really be able to make a more informed choice. You're not going to be able to see what you have to change, etc., etc. And then the second common mistake is ignoring cooking methods. So sometimes you might have chicken, and you might just simply put down chicken in your calorie tracking app. And that part isn't wrong per se, but let's say you have maybe one dinner in which you grill the chicken, but then another dinner in which you fried the chicken. Of course, if you fry the chicken, then you're going to be using lots of oil. And if you're using lots of oil, then you're going to be having a lot more calories within that meal as well. So again, it's very important to beware of the cooking methods. And now the next common mistake is underestimating portion sizes. And this is exactly why it's very important to have a food scale and or a measuring jug. So these will basically prevent you from underestimating. Now, I understand, this isn't something that you might always be able to use, especially maybe if you're around loads of people. And that's where experience comes into play. But when you can, of course, use a food scale, use a measuring jug, because that's what's going to really allow you to paint a good idea of what portion sizes look like. And therefore you're not always going to be underestimating, which therefore helps just minimize inaccuracies. And now the next common obstacle that many people face, potentially yourself included as well, is alcohol. Now, when it comes to alcohol, it's just very easy to ignore the amount of calories that are adding up for it, because number one, it's just very easy to get carried away with alcohol, especially if you're going on a bigger night out. And then on the back of being tipsy or drunk, you're not really going to care about what you're eating or how much you're eating either. So it's just very easy to basically blow your calories out the water for the day when you're drinking alcohol. And that's just something to be mindful of moving forward. And now the next common obstacle is not tracking oils, sauces, condiments, and dressings. And this is actually a mistake that my online member Anka used to make, and I know she won't mind me mentioning this, but basically when she first started out with me, she wasn't tracking her dressing, she wasn't tracking her oil, and she wasn't too sure why she wasn't making progress at first. And then once I pointed that out, it was like a gut feeling of mine that she wasn't tracking those. Her progress started to fly. This could be something that you're very well not doing. Maybe you're not tracking your oils, dressings, sauces, etc. And again, these can add up a ton. And then not tracking bites, licks, and nibbles. So this is kind of similar to the prior one, but if you're just maybe having a cookie there, and then having a little bit of ice cream there, and then having a handful of nuts there, and you don't really think it matters because these are like little minor things that you're doing throughout the day, then that's exactly what is going to slow your progress down, because you will be surprised again as to how much these add up. And this isn't to make calorie tracking sound tedious or off-putting in any way, but this is exactly what calorie tracking allows you to realize. It brings attention and highlights these little habits that you don't realize you're doing throughout the day, and is what is therefore holding you back from achieving your fitness goals. So again, these are of course important to track. And again, when you do track these consistently throughout the days, weeks, months, years, however long you do decide to track for, then again, calorie tracking is what's really going to help bring attention to that. And then common mistake number 7 is not weighing portion sizes. Now, I don't really feel like this is a mistake if you are experienced at tracking calories. If you've been calorie tracking for a while now, then fair play, you might have a good idea of what a portion size looks like. But if you're new to calorie tracking, you cannot go around estimating. If you really have to, then fair play, because maybe you don't have access to a food scale in that moment. But again, when you can, definitely use the tools that I mentioned earlier within this video, because to put it bluntly, you do not have enough experience to be guessing. And then the final common mistake that many people make, potentially yourself included, is only tracking many hours later, or even worse, the next day. Again, every once in a while, that's fine, it might happen. But if you're always tracking at the end of the day or the next day, then chances are there's going to be a lot of inaccuracies there. That's because memory does play up. You're not going to remember every single thing that you had throughout the day, or the correct portion sizes, maybe the frequency or the amount of times that you had them throughout the day. Like for example, I don't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday. So again, if you can, make sure you're tracking in the moment, and that's really what is going to help the accuracy be much higher, which, like I said, is very important. And now when it comes to common questions, one of the most common questions is, should I eat back the calories that I burnt? And my recommendation is you do not eat back the calories that you burnt. First of all, the calorie goal that you're given does include your activity levels within that, so you don't need to worry about that part. Number two, it will be an easy way to worsen your relationship with both food and exercise. And I don't want to go into it too much because this video isn't about that, but I'm happy to link the video on the screen just so you can watch it if you want. So when it comes to solid foods and spreads, I like to use grams or ounces. And then when it comes to liquids like beverages or dressings, I would recommend using milliliters or fluid ounces. And then when it comes to oils, I would recommend using tablespoons or teaspoons. So how consistent should you be? Well, if you followed my content for a while over on Instagram or X, then you'll know that the 100% consistency drum, for the long term at least, isn't something that I'm a fan of, because that ends up feeling like prison more than anything. You know, over the course of months or years, who wants to be 100% consistent? You know, there's no realistic lifestyle flexibility in there. So I'm a big proponent of like 85% consistency, 85-90% consistency. And I think with that, you can still have the lifestyle flexibility while still seeing great results. So if you want to find out what your calorie goal should be, then I would recommend clicking the link in the caption of this video for my free calorie calculator. So if you're tracking calories and you're not losing weight, meanwhile you're swearing up and down that you are being consistent, then chances are you are making at least one or more of the mistakes that I previously mentioned in this video, so maybe go and rewatch that part. So if you're unsure as to whether you should weigh your food raw or cooked, I would say it actually doesn't matter too much. What I would recommend is you just pick one and be consistent with it. It's no use tracking raw at lunch and then tracking cooked at dinner and then, you know, varying it up as the week goes along. That is going to lead to, again, quite a few inaccuracies. I personally like to weigh it raw just because I find it easier to be consistent with. So if you believe that calorie tracking is long and it's something that you cannot be bothered to do, then here is a screenshot of the average daily time that I spend on my calorie tracking app. And with that information, why would you not optimize just a few minutes of each day to optimize something that's so important when it comes to your nutrition and helping you reach your fitness goals? If you're not sure how long you should track your calories for, then I would recommend doing it for at least 2 to 4 weeks, just because you've got nothing to lose from doing that, and you've potentially got life-changing education on the back of that to gain. So it could be worthwhile, again, just doing it for 2 to 4 weeks. And if after the 2 to 4 weeks you don't like it anymore, then you never have to do it again. So again, that's just the minimum I would recommend. Alternatively, if you do find it's an approach that really works for you, then feel free to keep going with it. So if you're unsure how to eat out and track your calories at the same time, first of all, I want to say, you know, every once in a while, if you have a meal out and it's not something you do too often, then maybe just don't worry about it. But again, if A, you do want to track it, or B, it's something you're doing quite frequently, then I would recommend that you do look at the menu in advance, because chain restaurants nowadays, they have their menus online with the nutritional information. So with that, there's not really any excuse to not track it if you really think about it, if you're going to a chain, that is, and you are going in advance enough. So that could be an option you do. Or next, in specific parts of the world, for example, I know this is a thing that is done in the UK, they have their calories on menus as well now. So again, you can look at the menu and decide on maybe which meal is the best suited one for the amount of calories that you have left for that specific day. Now, you know, as well as that, you could also request that it's cooked in a specific way. So maybe grill it instead of fry it, or ask for dressings and sauces on the side, or maybe ask them not to put any butter in, you know, just minor tweaks like that. Again, it's your meal, so ultimately it's up to you how you have it, right? Now, one thing I do want to emphasize, because I have been online coaching for a while now, I've worked with many people by this point, and what I can say is that calorie tracking is not for everyone. Obviously, I know this video was about how to track your calories, but this doesn't mean that I believe it's for everyone. I do think it can be a valuable tool for many people, but there are some people out there who I don't think it's a good idea for, particularly those who have had a history of eating disorders. One thing I do want to emphasize as well that I haven't mentioned from the video is if you want a free workout plan and or a free fat loss guide from my website, then I'm going to leave the link for that in the caption below this video alongside the free calorie calculator I have. Do follow me over on social media if you haven't already. I go through phases of sometimes being more active on Instagram or being more active on X, so do follow me on maybe one or both of those platforms. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, of course. Like this video if you found it helpful, maybe even share it with a friend. Thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you around. So when it comes to solid foods, on my throat. Oh, much better.